All right, welcome to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Today we got Ken Bray, President and CEO of Equibrand, President of the Texas High School Rodeo Association, board member of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, and just an icon in the Western industry. So, Ken, thanks for coming out here today.
Heck yeah, thanks for having me.
So we know what you've done in the Western industry. It's amazing. It's amazing what you guys have done. You know, you're a true legend for what you've done for the industry. But today I'd like to talk about Ken Bray, the father. I do a lot of clinics throughout the years, talk with parents and kids, and I remember the DMs that I would get when I was making the NFR and the amount of people that would ask what it takes to get sponsors, what does it take to get to the NFR. And I know it's such a hard line being a coach and a parent. I live it here at home as well. And just to have your blueprint, what it is that you felt like that you learned from, that you would change maybe, or what you would never stray away from. You got two boys, two of them pretty different personalities, I would say, watching them grow up. And I thought Paden said it really good. He said you constantly he said, Paden, slow the hell down. Wyatt, hurry the hell up. And so just the different personalities, and what Paden's now 24, come out pretty strong. 2019 Rookie of the Year, ended up 17th in the world. Bounced back from that, 2020, made his first NFR, wins his first round at the NFR, wins the average at his first NFR, and almost wins a world title. And then this is his third NFR. And then last year, coming off of a tough one last year at 17th from $200 to make the NFR, short to make the NFR. There's a lot of ups and downs with that. And then, Wyatt, I've been watching him, 22 years old now, still in college, is that right?
Still in college.
And won the region last year. And he's been sending me videos a lot throughout the summer, and I went and watched him in a few other rodeos this summer as well, and he's well on his way. And so I just love to ask you, growing up, what was your philosophies? What was your method?
Well, it was never my goal for them to be a professional rodeo cowboy. But what we really did was focus on the family aspect of it. So, it's got to be their guy. It's got to be their goal to make the NFR, or to sacrifice what the guys have to sacrifice at that level. And nobody can do that but the contestant. So always that was their idea. The benefits of their success that I celebrate personally, selfishly maybe even, but neither one of their college cost me a dime, B or I. And nor do I think that I would have paid for their college, because if they want it bad enough, then they need to figure out how to get it, because that's just how life is. There's nothing free. But rodeo is something that I'm extremely passionate about personally, and the team roping aspect of it, roping, calf roping, all of that is, I'm just a true fan. And my wife is a fan. B is amazing. And so none of this would have been possible without her and I working together as a team. And we see it's systemic throughout any sport. You pick one. But if the mother's not engaged, then chances are the kid will not stay engaged. So it was a real team effort, and B roped and I roped. And so the kids really didn't know anything different than roping. We were knee deep in USTRC at that period of time. And then, of course, with our rope brands and Classic Equine, and, being at all the events, and, personally competing and engaged in the sports, they didn't really know anything different other than this is what people do.
I remember when I first seen those kids was at the George Strait. And I remember just the intensity level Paden had, the passion he had for it, the focus he had for it. I remember he would be sitting on the barrel on the heel side at the George Strait, and there'd be 15 Dr. Pepper cans stacked up, and the only break he took was during the drag, where he'd go to the bathroom and go get something to eat and run right back there. I don't think he ever missed a run. And you could tell there was passion and desire there, which if you're going to do this sport, you better love it.
Yeah, you better love it.
And he just seemed like he had that.
He has every read tape, memorized.
Yeah.
He was just that kid. But, you and other guys like you would come by and show him attention, and he stayed back there and he sat on a bale of sawdust and got a Dr. Pepper handed to him every now and then, but he was, in his highlight. But, he's surrounded by it because that's what we did. But talking about the two of them being so drastically different, Wyatt couldn't tell you anything about who used to be, the winners of the BFI or the George Strait or anything like that, but they're just operate on two totally different lines. Two totally different lines.
Because I remember Wyatt would always make me laugh. What do you remember? Remember he wrote down a goal list. How old was he when he wrote down that goal list and he said that what he wanted to do? Remember when he had an outline of what he wanted to be in 5 years, 10 years? Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, that's another thing that we've always done with them was have them set goals, even whenever they were young. And but yeah, Wyatt's goals were always way different than Paden's until now. It's funny how things develop and change and how kids are.
What were, as a kid, tell me the difference between the two just in their goals.
Wyatt was pretty sure he was going to be a professional fisherman and a guide. That's was what he wanted to do in life. Loved, you couldn't keep him out of water.
Yeah.
If there was a frog, it was his. and Paden was just laser focused on the arena always. He just was always that guy.
Wasn't Wyatt wanting to be the employee of the month at Cooper's? You remember that one?
He has quite a few funny ones, to be honest with you. But he was so honest about it.
Yes.
He wasn't joking about it. That was his goal.
And how tall is he now?
He's 6'9".
6'9". I thought 7. I did not know 9. Wow. And how much does he weigh? He's a man now.
Yeah, he's a big guy, and that was kind of part of Wyatt's development because he grew so fast all of his life, and so having control of his physical control, athleticism, and all of that, he really struggled with it for a long time.
So tell me when he was growing so fast, what did they say that would kind of be an attribute to that?
Well, he was never able to catch up with himself. I honestly can't tell you how many sets of fenders that he's been through in his life. But you literally wake up one day and his jeans don't fit and he needs a new set of fenders. But about 2 years ago, he stopped growing taller and started filling out, and everything changed.
Yeah.
People don't know it about Wyatt, but both Paden and Wyatt rope calves. Paden, loves calf roping and has done some good this last year and would focus on it more if it was easier in the PRCA to do 2 events. But, Wyatt entered 2 rodeos last year, college rodeos, and, placed at both of them. I think he won second at Lubbock's College Rodeo, and then he also placed second or third at Tarleton's Rodeo last year. That's it. But he quit roping calves because it was just so frustrating for him.
Right.
And now he jokes and says that if all the calves were as big as the team roping steers, that he'd enter every time.
Yeah. I remember at the branding this year for the military when he came out there and one of those yearlings, and it wasn't small. 300-400 pound calf got away, and he just grabbed it by the ear and flanked it and had some of the America's best badasses right there in awe.
Well, he has the leverage.
Man. Yeah.
He has the leverage, that's for sure.
I remember when we had the conversation a few years ago, and I think I might have been talking with B, because you've had your kids, you've had them weight train, and stay fit, and have trainers. And didn't the trainer one time say that he might be a little bit tired? Because at 1 year, how much did he grow?
Oh, my gosh. Almost a half a foot. It's just... He's
and that'll send the body into overdrive trying to keep up,
right?
Being exhausted,
right?
I think a lot of parents, that's good to understand too, is that there's certain times that they may not be lazy. Their body may just be working because they're growing.
Yeah, well, I'll say neither one of them are lazy. There's not an opportunity to be lazy.
Yeah.
Around our place.
Because I know that I remember you kept saying like, man, he's just tired all the time, and then when you come back, I think you and B said that he grew a half a foot that long, and they said that would wear him out internally. But
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
What are some things that, because I know you were big on goals, which I was always a goal setter. What about how you spoke to them? Because I think what I struggled with through my career was how I was spoke to. I felt like my dad was almost preparing me for war. I think he was preparing me for probably going to serve in the military. He wanted to make sure that nobody could be as hard on me as he was, to where and that was a philosophy back then. And, that beat down to make sure that, when you go out in the real world, that you can handle it. And I think that certain, what I noticed was that how much of a parent can develop a kid's internal monologue, how he thinks of himself, how he talks about himself. What are some of the things that you stressed on as they grew up? Because those are both very confident kids.
We've really focused on the process all throughout from the time that they started. And, junior rodeo today is, so competitive. And, all of our practices were set up so that there was a victory in every practice. But what we celebrated was the accomplishments of following the process. And even whenever they would go to an event and compete later after they got, into the junior rodeo program, and then jackpot team opens USTRC events and amateur rodeos and the likes, it was, the belt buckle that you wear home isn't if you win first, it's did you do your job?
Right.
Did you follow the process? Did you compete on what you drew? And if you didn't, we go back and we work on what happened and reprogram your mind that this is actually what happened. And we got some help to do that. I'm not that smart, but I can copy a good idea whenever I see one. And mental management training based over there in
Flower Mound.
Mm-hmm.
Lanny Basham.
The book With Winning in Mind. And
book is great.
And they also have another book, Parenting Champions, that's awesome. So we had to separate. Whenever we're at the arena, we're in it to win it. We have a plan. We have a goal for that practice because we only had X amount of time to get anything done anyway. So it had to be structured so that there could be some forward progress.
What was your process?
With the practice, always start off on the dummy every day. You go back and you just work on the fundamentals, whether they're roping calves, whether they're roping steers. Start off on that side of it, and then move to, roping live cattle. And the cattle were always set up for them to win. So, if we had to give them drugs, mellow yellow, whatever, to make their speed fit their ability at that time, they never ran anything that was above their ability to be safe or to be able to win. So they got a lot of confidence from that as well. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, we're not perfect by any stretch. There were some frustrating practices because that's what happens whenever you're trying to get better. Mm-hmm. But it was structured so that could happen, and also having them mounted on the right kind of horse for their ability at the time. And then following that up with making them ride multiple different types of horses once their ability got better, head on a heel horse, heel on a head horse, or whatever, so that they weren't married to just, to be a one and done kind of a deal.
I've seen that a lot. I've seen a lot of kids go through the high school ranks, go through the college ranks. They've had that one horse, and then when it gets too old, they're always looking for that horse, and their career plateaus or their ability plateaus. And it's very, very important, in my opinion, to keep kids on enough horses to where they learn how to adapt. Because some kids ride, I call it a horse rider chart, where if you ride with a lot of intensity, your horse probably needs to be a little bit dull, right, where you'll actually almost kind of wake that horse up. And if you ride with a lot of intensity with a horse that has a lot of intensity, usually you're going to be rattling around like a ball bearing in a boxcar. A lot of out of controlness.
Right.
And then I've seen the people that ride real mature, that are almost able to control a horse's emotions with their legs, are able to ride that horse with high intensity. And it kind of balances each other out. But it takes a lot of timing and feel to be able to find and reps and getting on enough different horses where you can adapt. And I think that's very smart. The kids said, I texted them and they said, lots of controlled practices and the basics, the fundamentals. They always strived on the basics and fundamentals. What was your philosophy on that?
Well, you have to have a foundation. And, you know, that foundation is something that you build on always. But the basic tenets of it, I think, have to be reemphasized on a daily basis. It's, you know, B was a big part of this whole thing. One, there's no way that I could have done it all by myself with them, but, you know, she was right there side by side, you know, helping. But she was a pretty elite athlete. She played college basketball and was in some really structured programs. And I've always been the guy that, you know, enjoyed the horse part of it. So, you know, keeping the horses working and making sure that they were mounted with all of that was something that I could contribute to that whole thing. But her emphasis on the structure of a practice and helping even keep me on track was just so critical to their evolution.
I've seen so many kids that learn how to go too fast too early. It's very easy that I've seen to watch the NFR and want to go straight to the NFR. And they skip the foundation. They skip doing things correctly. A lot of it from us not knowing. And what I have seen, the kids that try to skip those steps and go too early, too fast, too early, they almost create so much anxiety before they even rope. It's almost, to me, that increases that blank out, you know, where you nod and you don't even remember anything that happened. And I think it's so smart, and it's that way in everything that I can think of. You know, in football, when they didn't just throw pads on you and you started to run into people. It was walkthroughs. You know, you learn how to get your footwork correct. Then you sped it up. Then you put pads on. Then we started going full contact. And I think that so much of that skipped in team roping and sometimes in the timed events is going too fast too early and creating so many bad habits that makes it harder to fix later. And I think that's very smart to get that structured, because I can see it in both them kids. If they need to go catch one, they can go catch one. And where they've learned how to get a little bit faster and faster, but it's still under control. It's a good balance.
I think jackpots helped a lot with that too. You know, the jackpot calf ropings and the jackpot team ropings, and we went to a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And you know, for them, the hype of the short round and the music and the announcer and all of that, you know, was something that they got, you know, so excited about. But mm-hmm. you know, you have to get out of the barrier and you have to catch, you know, 3 steers to make the short round or mm-hmm. 4 steers to make the short round or whatever. And so I think that helps a lot with that part of it. You know, you've been to a lot of the high school events or the junior events whenever they might have a jackpot alongside of, you know, the International Finals Youth Rodeo in Shawnee or some of those. And oh my gosh, it's chaos. Mm-hmm. You know, the catch ratio there might be 20% maybe. And but I think jackpotting helps a lot, where you learn to score and catch.
Yeah, I agree. So Paden comes out in 2019, wins Rookie of the Year, and 17th in the world. What was his mentality like when he came home after being 17th in the world? Even though he won Rookie of the Year, it was kind of a kick and pull. You know, excited to get that, but then ended up not making the NFR. What was the attitude and the morale like when he came home that season?
Well, I'll answer your question, but you know, you were a contributor to that, so I'm going to brag on you for just a little bit. You took a chance on Paden, and the year that you took off during the ERA, and you amateur rodeoed with Paden, and so he got that opportunity to be around a solid veteran NFR guy and get a little bit of a taste of that, of how to compete. And then Eric, you know, thank God for him, he took a chance on Paden and took him out there, but you know, he didn't take it very good. He won the Rookie of the Year, and we almost had to make him go to Vegas to get his, to go through the ceremony and all that, and he was certainly glad he did it afterwards. Mm-hmm. But he had that standings as the screensaver on his phone, that it was never going to happen to him again. And so it motivated him, is what it did.
I think that's the key thing, motivate. It can be depressing. It can be. Like I said, I've talked to it before. Like when I was rodeoing, I almost had to have something to hate, which is not a healthy way to do things. But it was the only way I knew how to motivate. I mean, that was me. Like I said, how my dad kind of trained me. When I first got out there, like everyone was competition. And somebody might come up there and like, hey, my horse ain't working. Can I get on your horse? I'm like, no, I'm here to kick your ass. But then once I kind of got slowed down and I kind of like read the temperature of the room, that kind of mentality ain't gonna be liked out there. And then I got to kind of looking and I'm like, man, these guys ain't my enemies. They're my friends. We're just out here competing against each other, but like it's not life or death. So then I almost turned that into myself. Then I almost had to learn to hate myself a little bit and like get your butt up in the morning, and like I remember that one year I think Joseph and I roped. It was after I came back from the ERA. And after the winter time, I was 62nd in the world. And I put that on my screensaver on my alarm at 4:30 in the morning. Because I knew if I was going to beat him, I had to work out. I had to get mentally strong. I had to get physically strong. Coming back from the ERA, I had to start all over. It's not like I got in the buildings. I had to do it the old school way. Go to all the little rodeos and get qualified so you can get to the big rodeos and did it. But that when I looked at the end of the standings and I'm 62nd in the world, that'll get your butt up right there and get to working out. So it was almost like that kind of the David Goggins mentality. Like use that as fuel. Like I needed that fuel. When you watch Michael Jordan, his documentary, he almost looked for something to get mad at and used it as fuel. And I think some people can look at the discouragement and almost just kind of cower down and lower, as opposed to like we're the winners. They use that as fuel.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool how we use that. Because I mean it. Then here comes 2020. Makes his first NFR. Wins the first round. His first NFR. That's a hard second round to rope. It's pretty hard when you have it took me 62 runs to win my first NFR. This little butt munch freaking comes out here in the first round and freaking knocks it out of the park. And then wins the average and almost won won reserve world title. So from going to 2019 where it was fuel, now all of a sudden he's on top of the world. How was that demeanor at the end of that season?
That was almost surreal, really. Yeah. And but again with Paden, winning second, made him think that I didn't finish, I didn't meet my goal, and financially it was a great year for those guys, but it wasn't the goal, so it just motivates him.
Yeah. So makes the finals again, and then last year 17th by $200. Didn't make the NFR. So now we're kind of back to how it started again.
Yeah. He handled that like a champ. It didn't bother him a bit. No, that was a tough year for him and Eric both. The whole year was a tough year.
So as a parent, what do you do?
That's life.
Yeah.
That's just. It's all. I think it's a blessing. I think there's a blessing in everything, because it's not always easy. Life isn't easy. Sports isn't easy. The same team doesn't win the Super Bowl every year. You might. That's just life. That's sports. That's rodeo. Things happen, and the thing that I was proud of him for was that he didn't let it beat him down. It just, again, it motivated him. Mm-hmm. And, it was a great life lesson, because that's life. I mean, we haven't knocked it out of the park every year in business either. Get your teeth kicked in, and we all learn from bloody noses.
Yeah. So then then this year he's got the finals made. Was there any adjustments you feel like he made from last year to this year? Or just things kind of went more his way?
I think things just, lined up for him a little bit more this year. And, of course, the Governor's Cup was really what secured his spot. And they did well in the first round of the Governor's Cup. But it wasn't an easy year this year. I'm not sure there is such a thing as an easy year in the PRCA.
It's getting tougher.
Getting tougher.
It's getting tougher and faster.
Yeah.
And more of them.
Yeah. There was a lot of obstacles that they both had to overcome this year with horses and other things. So it was a tough year, and proud for him that they, that he snuck in there.
Yeah. So Wyatt, this was kind of his first time jumping in the rig and hitting all the rodeos. Went all over the summer, went through the fall. He was sending me some videos, and they come by the house and roped before they left out for Reno, and I was watching Wyatt, and man, just the range that he has now with his height is such an advantage. And being big is hard to ride, and he does a good job of it. And I was just so impressed from last year to this year as his season went. And I would say, it's like, what do you see? And I might say one little thing, and just like that, an adjustment. And then stuck with it. And then he would send me some rodeos, some runs over the fourth. And one little thing that I'd seen in the corner right there where it was just going a little bit too fast in the corner, had the steer strung out a little bit. The next one, posting that steer up. And just the adjustments he could make, it was phenomenal. I was up there doing a clinic during Kennewick Rodeo, and I flew out the Sunday morning out of Kennewick to go do a school in Tennessee. And so I drove up there and watched a short round. And Wyatt wins the short round. But it wasn't that it impressed me, the fact that he won the short round. He's 5'2", made a great run. Now, if it would have been where his horse scored great, he hit the line, rope went on tight, set it up, 5'2", I'd have said great job. It wasn't. His horse popped, almost reared at the front of the line right there. But I watched the rerun, and I was so impressed because that would throw a lot of people off. That horse came up just enough that throws your timing off as a header. What impressed me so much was that horse reared up a little bit right there, and he still got his rope going, got ahead of that horse, hit the line right there, and still made a great run and win the short round. That's maturity. Those are things that I don't see in very many young headers. Heading and being a quarterback in the NFL, to me, have a lot of similarities because it takes so long to mature as a header. You can see a lot of wide receivers come out of college and they can get behind Tom Brady and go win the Super Bowl. But to be Tom Brady takes a lot of years. It takes a lot of years to get that patience in the pocket, being able to read the defense and read the plays. There's a lot of things that happen at that level. And what I seen was when things were a little off, he stood strong in the pocket right there, and the little things that could got in his head or got him sidetracked didn't. His focus was there. And I was really impressed. I don't see that a lot because I know he can go score one and go run and go catch one. But when the run wasn't perfect, he still did an amazing job of adjusting. To me, at 22, first year out there, that was impressive. Very impressive.
It was a lot of fun to watch Wyatt this summer. He had a great year. His stats, because we are weird that way and keep
Tell me
up.
about that.
I mean, you have to have a measurement. And so, what's your catch ratio? And I guess it comes from all the time that we spent producing team ropings and, trying to make them where, people can catch.
And probably in business.
In business, true, yeah, for sure. But so that's, at the end of the year, there's a measurement. How did you do? What was your catch ratio? And Wyatt's was right at 80%. So of getting out of the barrier and scoring and turning one with an opportunity to win. So as the summer progressed, his confidence just continued to grow. And, with Wyatt, like Paden was, he was the quarterback in flag football and growing up. He was always extremely athletic. And Wyatt, his growth pattern was so erratic that he didn't have that athletic ability all of his life. But whenever he got it, the confidence that he got from it has been so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
So much fun to watch because he is, for a big guy, he's pretty dang catty.
Yeah.
And so, like in that run, it's, he's really worked hard at his mental management. And I guarantee you that he had already run that steer at Kennewick 100 times before he nodded his head.
Preload.
Yeah. Preload.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. I was proud of him this year. So one of my biggest nightmares that is hard as a parent, I got both my kids out there on the road, my wife out there on the road, and it's hard to sleep some nights, and this is the things that could happen, and then you had to experience that this summer. So tell me a little bit about that.
Oh man, that's every every parent's nightmare. It was 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was driving into the office, and Wyatt calls, and it was a weird thing, because I was actually, I have him on my phone, and saw that they were just outside of Salt Lake, but they were stopped, and I just started praying and thanking God that he'd gotten them that far. They'd left Salinas, California, where both of them had done well at Salinas, and they were headed to Ogden. And literally in the middle of my prayer, Wyatt calls. He said, "Dad, my phone is about to die. It's bad. The trailer, we had a wreck. It went in the ditch, and the trailer came off, and Paden's in the trailer, and the horses are upside down, and 911 won't answer, and my phone's about to die," and lost him. And so it was awful. I started calling everybody in Utah, government offices, and trying to get somebody out there to help, and nobody's answering the phone. I call 911 and they'll answer, and I call 911 here, and they say that they can't help me. I called everybody that I knew in Utah to get help, and it was a really tough day. An hour and a half after the wreck, the highway patrol got there. About 2 hours after the wreck, the fire department arrived, and shortly behind them, the wrecker arrived, and the wrecker died in the middle of the road. And, thank God for a good Samaritan, that rancher construction gentleman that came by and brought a skid steer, and the fire department cut the roof off the trailer, and they drug the horses out one by one by hand to a point. And Wyatt ended up losing both of his head horses, and that was a really tough loss, but hard to replace that level of an athlete. Paden's heel horse and Josh's heel horse were pretty banged up, but they made it through. And, I thank God, because I'd trade a horse for a kid any day, but it's tough. And I still don't sleep whenever they're driving. I never have.
Yeah.
It's hard. I know what you're going through with Jackie and the kids being out there on the road, and it's hard. You said something to me the other day about how you, until you had retired from professional rodeo, that you really never understood what was on the other side of it, and how you see things so differently. And we're here to help them. You're always there to support Jackie and her dreams, and pursuing her goals, which she knocks it out of the park every year. And me, for the boys, it's their dream, it's not mine. But you want them to be everything that they want to be. But God, I hate the road.
Yeah, I did too. When I talked to you, I remember I talked to you in the middle of a lot of that situation, and throughout all this, preparing these kids, your philosophy, your teaching styles, your methods, all the things that you've talked about. But the one thing that I think everyone needs to know is how strong y'all's faith is. Because even throughout all this, you kept telling me, "Charlie, God is good. God is good," throughout all that. And that's a hard time to be able to say that, to trust God. Because that's as hard as it's going to get and then both kids, not even a scratch on them.
It's amazing.
Especially with Paden being in the trailer when it flipped, and not a scratch on him. And no matter what that was going on, you kept saying God is good. You kept trusting him. That's a hard time to do it. It's one of those things that you can see when the Bible talks about witness, that when someone truly lives the word of God, you can see it. And how you presented yourself and how strong you stayed right there in the middle of that, it was a testament of the reason why these kids are successful and y'all are successful. And it was a tough situation, but the fact that both of them are still here, that's a big thanks to God. And then how about that night? Talk about mental toughness. Tell me about that night.
After all of that, Paden and Brenton were up at Salt Lake City that night.
One of the biggest regular season rodeos of the year.
Right. And I'd probably look back on that as, that was probably the rodeo that actually got them into the finals. I mean, there's a lot through the whole thing, but that was definitely a clutch rodeo. I was really proud of Brenton and Paden after dealing with that all day, the wreck and the emotion of all of that. and then, getting the horses that survived to the vet and dealing with the wreck. The truck was completely totaled. The trailer was totaled. And they had left a set of horses in Spanish Fork that they rode at Spanish Fork, and a rig. And so they got the Spanish Fork horses to take to Salt Lake that night, and they won Salt Lake.
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching that, and I was like, you can tell God's got his hand in that. There's certain things you can see and feel when you can tell God's presence, and really seeing it in that situation. But just the mental toughness. I mean, that's mental toughness to be able to pick up that stuff right there and be able to move on and compete. And another thing is too that I noticed with Wyatt throughout all of that adversity, there is no one that could have quit at that point in time where he was at, and everyone would have said, I understand. There's no shame. I mean, you lose both your good horses at things that weren't even your fault, that come out of the nowhere that you can't control. No, stays hooked. Wrote better at the end of the year. Wrote better than how he started. I mean, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I was really proud of him for that, because the two that he lost were, they were hard to replace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that was 1 and 2, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
First and second, horses. But yeah, I kept watching him throughout that, and St. Paul looked good, and he started sending me some runs, and you sent me some runs there toward the end of the year, and like I said, he was getting stronger, like Diesel.
Yeah,
just kept getting stronger the more the year went out, and so I was proud of him. So I'm excited to watch Paden this year going to the finals. I'm excited to see what and who they're going to rope with next year, and I'll definitely be sitting over here in the stands rooting for him for sure.
Yeah. There's always a new year.
There always is. So let's shift gears a little bit, and now let's talk. I'd love to talk about the Texas High School Rodeo Association. You're the president of the Texas High School Rodeo Association. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Texas High School Rodeo Association is, I think, so important for the overall rodeo industry. And I think that there's tough competitors anywhere, all over the country. So I'm not that guy that bangs my chest of, Texas is all that, because there is real talent all across the United States.
I would agree.
And Canada, too. But just by pure numbers in Texas, it's so important. And, it's 1,500 members in the state. There's 10 regions in the state. And, there's really no telling who is going to emerge from Texas as the national champion. So I'm a contest guy, and, work with a team on the board that are, great men and women that, also believe in the contest and the best possible opportunity for the kids. So the top 10 from each region advanced to this Texas State Finals. About 650 contestants.
How many regions?
10.
10.
10 regions. And the top 10 in each event from each region advanced to the state finals.
In Abilene.
So the contest in Abilene is, so important, because it's a 2 and a short. And, the preparation of the stock and making sure that we have an even set of cattle, goats, horses, whatever, for the contestants to compete on is just paramount.
So I've been there with Cadence, obviously, and then I've been there spectating, and the fact that you have one for everyone in the team roping is unbelievable. Because what is there, 100 kids?
With ties, there can be, more, but
more.
Yeah.
But that one for everyone.
One for everyone.
That's what every PRCA rodeo cowboy's dream is. When we think of rodeos, like Reno Rodeo has one for everyone. Houston has one for everyone. San Antonio has one for everyone. There's some redraws after that, but you don't know what you have. It's not like you're watching your steer go. The reruns are so hard, because if you don't have a rerun, a lot of the rodeos you didn't place in the first round.
Exactly.
Because when you draw that steer and you come back and know exactly what he does, it's completely different than when you're not sure what he does.
Exactly.
To me, that's the most level playing field. Every good rodeo does that. So that's phenomenal that you guys take the effort to do those little things like that.
Well, the board is a really, really hard-working board. Great group of people. Our stock contractor does a phenomenal job. J&J Rodeo Company does it, and he puts together a good set of cattle for us, and we get the chance to sort them. And then those cattle are prepared, and goats are prepared the night before that they go in the next day's perf. So they're all conditioned exactly the same way. And it's turned into a great contest. And it's also very interesting, and I guess we achieved our goal, so to speak, because it doesn't matter where you draw up during the week in the back-to-back format that it is, because it's a pretty even percentage of contestants that qualify out of each performance pool.
Right.
So that was a goal there, and then it's because it's a strong organization. It's interesting for sponsors, and this year we're going to add $200,000 to the Texas State Finals and give away over $160,000 in scholarships. So every cent goes back to the kids, and I think that we do a good job as an association of, I guess, giving rodeo the respect that it deserves at that level. And I hope that we set a good example for production excellence and the integrity of the contest. That's the pure goal, because these kids and their families spend so much and they work so hard, and to not have the best opportunity to win and compete is, in my opinion, a tragedy.
So I called you, I think before the high school finals, I think this year, last year, I can't remember which. And both boys were already graduated, and you're still the president of the Texas High School Rodeo Association. Now, I've done enough clinics with enough, and I've also went through with Cadence for the junior rodeos, the high school rodeos, and I've seen the parents. I've been to high school rodeo before, and your kids are out, and I called them, like, Ken, what? Why? Why are you still there? Like, I know how many things you have. Like, at what point in time, like, how are you still there? And we had a conversation about it, and I'll tell everyone what I said later, but tell me, like, why is it that you're still so passionate about where the Texas High School Rodeo Association is going?
I think that the sport deserves it, and I think that the kids are worth it. And, if it wasn't for the support of a good board that we have, and the kids, young adults, they appreciate what we do for the most part, and I think it's worth it. We had some high goals. We wanted to make sure that the association, whenever we were elected and came on the board, and it's taken some time, but Holly DeLon does an amazing job, and
She's
Susan
great.
Baldwin, our secretary, and but we've been able to build on the sponsorship side of things, and then that brings opportunities for added money, which brings more contestants and more membership, which brings more sponsorship, and to hit $200,000 in added money.
That's phenomenal.
Is amazing. I think that the finals last year paid out something like $370,000. So that ranks up there with some major PRCA rodeos.
Yep.
And this year, adding an additional $50,000 is going to push that pay up any higher.
Yeah.
It's going to allow us to also do some extended pay to spread that money and that opportunity across to more contestants. So
I think that's amazing what you've done to show a standard. I think to me that people should hear this, and I think everybody should hear this from every rodeos, from the PRCA to everybody, is like, I think you've got to put enough splash out there. You're getting notice on what standards you guys are holding, on what you guys are trying to produce. Because I know you and B both have told me about how important high school rodeo is. Even in your company and for the PRCA, there's a certain amount of kids that if they don't stay going, it shows all the way up to the top. Correct?
Absolutely. Kids are our future.
Yeah.
And they need the more opportunity that we have for contestants, young people, to compete in a quality contest for quality financial opportunity, because rodeo's expensive, and there has got to be some kind of a payback for that. And, I think it goes a long way to ensure the longevity of our sport. And, you see a lot of things happening out there with what WCRA is doing and the Patriot and some others that are paying particular interest into the kids. Of course, Chris Neal on the calf roping side of things has done a great job, and others. But there's got to be a feeder system. We have to have a future, and I like setting the bar and saying, "Come and get it." And honestly, I'll just say it, to push upward pressure up to National High School Rodeo to continue to, make that event grow and be better as well.
Because I remember I called you and I'm like, Ken, what in the heck are you doing? And we had a conversation, and when we got done talking, I was like, Ken, I can't believe I'm saying this, but you just let me know if you need me any help.
I'll see you in June. Because
it was inspiring, and the amount of pride you took in it. And it's anyone that doesn't know Ken, and your myth is very, very large on what kind of a man you are. You're the integrity. I mean, you ooze out of every pore, and just you're man of your word. But when you get into something, you're going to do it correctly, and it's going to do it right. And what you've done with that state finals is something that I hope everyone starts to see. And there's a blueprint of what you're doing of what we could be doing to do it better. So I admire you for that.
Well, I appreciate it, but that is definitely a team effort. So I can't take all the credit for that part of it. But yeah. So
the last thing that I was wanting to ask you is, when I was rodeoing, I used to get so many DMs, young kids wanting to, obviously was go to the next level. How do you make the NFR? Which I think we touched on quite a bit with your two boys. But the next question that they always followed up with was, how do you get sponsors? And with Equibrand being one of the most premier businesses in the Western industry, you guys deal with a lot of sponsorship applications. You have a lot of endorsees. So for parents and kids listening to this, what are you looking for in an endorsee? What qualities are you looking for?
I guess to the parents, I would say take a breath. Don't put that kind of pressure on your kid. And it's there's so much pressure. It seems like for kids, down to the Pee Wee division anymore, to have a patch. And I think I would spend more time being focused on a good training program, and let your actions speak. And then those sponsors are going to come to you, because we're all looking for that next guy that we can hang our brand on. But from that standpoint, we look at a lot of things. How do you manage your social media? What do you look like?
Talk to me about your social media. What are you looking for in your social media?
I want it to be wholesome, for sure. I don't want to see anything that is rude, obscene, upstanding. Looking for something that's upstanding. And your appearance. Is your shirt tucked in? Do you have your hair cut or combed or whatever? If we're going to stick our brand on you, if you don't respect yourself enough to clean up and shape up, then you're not going to respect my brand on your shirt. So that's one thing. Focus on the arena, and just do what you do in rodeo, and continue to get better. But I would caution young people to if you take on a brand, then be serious about it. Because if you are this brand one day and another brand the next week or the next year, you have no credibility.
Right.
No credibility. And, clean up your rig. Brush your horse's mane and tail. If you don't take care of your own stuff, there's no way you're going to take care of my stuff. And then I just think, just be an honest competitor.
I remember one thing that I liked that you told some kids here when I had it at a clinic one year, and you told them that one of the things you look for is, do you share when someone else wins, do you share their excitement? Do you cheer them on? Do you congratulate them on social media? There's a lot to that, the sportsmanship side of things.
Yeah, if you're an ambassador, you need to be approachable, and I think that is a big deal. that you're, and that's a part of being a good sport. You don't have to like losing. Nobody likes losing. Like Joe Beaver says, show me a good loser and I'll show you a loser.
Yeah.
But, you can have class.
Yep.
And, I always told the boys that, they better not ever know if you hit him in the butt or one first, just you're the same guy no matter what. Mm-hmm. But, and definitely don't be picking on your horse. Mm-hmm. And you and I share that in a big way. But, there's taking your frustration out on your horse, or don't think we don't pay attention. How you as a young person, how do you treat your mom and dad? Are you respectful to your mom and dad? Because if you're not, I'm out.
I've had to get on a few kids at clinics before that as well, on how they treated their mom and dad. And the gratitude is so important out here. And I remember I heard a story, and I couldn't remember who it was from, but I do a lot of horsemanship in my clinics. For a few hours we just strictly focus on horsemanship, and it was one of the things my dad and I shared a passion together with. And I wished I was half the horseman he was, but I remember hearing a story about some people talking about sponsoring one of the junior ropings, and he was wanting to come in and sponsor it. He really enjoyed watching what he was seeing and talking about sponsoring it, maybe going forward with it, and then some young kid missed or broke out or did something and was walking right by, had no idea who was in the stands, had no idea any of that was going on, doubled his rope up and got after his horse right there for no dang reason, lost his emotions. And I heard that sponsor turn around and said, "Does that happen?" I said, "Yep, that does sometimes happen." They said, "Well, I'm sorry for wasting your time." And he turned around and walked away.
Yeah.
And I tell kids, I said, I remember as a young kid, I remember getting on to some people for getting on their horses. And I've done it. I'm not preaching the fact that I'm not better than no one. I did it. If I was to look back at my career and say what I wished I'd have changed was being able to control my emotions. And I don't tolerate it now. Because I know that was I like what Trevor says, a little kid that can't control his emotions turned into a big kid who can't control his emotions.
Exactly.
And when I learned how to control that, and I learned how to present myself better, and I want my horse to be on my team. But when I started noticing but I would always get on to somebody if I felt like it was getting out of hand. There's a difference between discipline and abuse. There's a time where a horse needs some correction, and there's another time you're just taking your emotions out. And I remember the times I would say something as a kid, and I would say, "Hey man, don't do that." And they're like, "It's my horse, I can do whatever I wanted." And I was like, well, that is their horse. I am out of line. So I didn't say nothing for a very long time until I heard somebody tell me that about how one little kid ruined it for all the rest of the kids because he couldn't control his emotions, and that sponsor walked away. So now it is your business. It's every kid's business. So I tell all these kids, I said, don't be scared to say something, because that jack wagon right there could cost you guys a sponsorship. And who knows going down the line what else it could cost, because everyone's got their phones out. And so I remember Cloverdale, up there in British Columbia, Cloverdale used to be one of the great rodeos in the spring. Some jackwagon ruined it for everybody, flipped a calf over, and then no more rodeo. I think it's a bronc and barrels now. One guy ruined it for everybody. So it is your business. It is everybody's business.
It's all of our business, just for the reason that you said, because there is a contingency out there that is pretty tenacious, that would like nothing more than to see our sport go completely away. Yeah. Not only is it 99 times out of 100 the wrong thing to do, as far as taking something like that on your horse, but you really can be like you said, the one guy or the one time that it finally says I'm done. As an industry, as a sport.
Yep, absolutely. So we've talked a lot about kind of how to carry yourself as you're a kid. That's going to help. How you handle your social media. What are some things? We talked a little bit about what not to do, but what are some more things that you would say what not to do? Because some of these kids don't know. When I've seen a lot of kids that basically walk up to sponsors and says, "Hey, I need some money so I can make the NFR. Will you sponsor me?" Well, that's a big no-no. Because to me, what are you giving back to that sponsor? I think a lot of kids don't understand is this is a double-way street. You're not just there to take money from them. You're also representing their brand. And so kids that walk with their hand out, that's a big turnoff. So what would you say are some things that are definitely no-nos?
I think that, that you don't get in too big of a hurry. It's, while your achievements, may be something that you're very proud of and should be proud of, have a little bit of respect for the effort that's been put forth by the people that have those kind of deals, and take a look at what they've accomplished and then try to match that. I think we can get in a little bit too big of a hurry expecting some type of a huge financial reward because, let's face it, who's going to make the NFR and the team roping next year? It's changed so much because there's so much talent out there. Yeah. And, it has to be something that you can do with some repetition to get any kind of financial, cash contribution. You get bonuses if you make the NFR. From a lot of companies will, pay a bonus if you're an endorsee. And then, to get the upfront cash, you're going to have to, to wear a veteran hat, truly.
Yeah.
But then there's, there's expenses in rodeo that a lot of companies, us included, help, contestants with in terms of, product. And, even for that, though, it's if you have our brand, all those same things apply in terms of how you represent us. But you're right, it does have to be a two-way street. And just don't get in too big of a hurry. If you're depending upon sponsorship money to be able to do what you want to do, then it's going to be a very frustrating experience for you.
I would agree.
Now, prove what you can do, and the sponsorship income that you get can be, very rewarding. Mm-hmm. And it can be the stuff that helps you profit from rodeo.
Yeah, because that's a big part of it. I've always told the young kids coming up is, it's amazing what your social media can do, because look at how many followers you have. Look how fast you can be in front of people. Because I remember when I first started, there was no social media, there was no internet. And so making the NFR was a few times that, only a few people kind of got some sponsors because it was only a few things that was on TV. That was the only recognition really a sponsor kind of got. Well, now it's evolved. Some of the most well-known actors out there in rodeo, some of them don't even compete, but how well they run their social media and how many people they're in front of.
Right.
There's a lot to that. And
those types of influencers.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that platform that they're able to use. And, when people that use it in a good way, it's amazing how that can happen for them. And same way with competing well. And integrity is a good one. I've seen so many people bounce around from sponsor to sponsor, and that's a huge turnoff. But it's hard because if you don't learn how to manage sponsors, if you don't learn how to sell yourself, if you don't learn how to make sure that this is a two-way street, when I'm going to try my hardest and I'm going to make sure I'm at every autograph signing, and my shirt's starched and it's clean, and how I represent myself in front of the crowd and the fans and at clinics and things like that, there's a certain amount of first of all, confidence, but self-respect that you have to have amongst yourself. That, to me, that's appealing for the sponsors. But to make it out there without sponsors is very, very tough. So learn how to sell yourself. Learn how to do the things the right way, because you better love it out here. If you're going to make it, you better love it. Because there's going to be times you're trying to figure out how to put fuel in your gas tank. There's times you're going to hope that you can get a little bit further on that tire that is bald, it's about to blow out, but you can't afford it. And it's expensive. But if you do it the right way, it can be a great way to make a living.
I agree.
And I would say that rodeo has probably taught me more about how to be self-employed and self-driven as much as I could think of anything else could be in the world. Because I sold myself to the sponsors. I got my butt out of bed and competed. I learned how to maintain my horses. Not to brag, but when it comes now to get outside of the arena, now if I apply those same things that I learned rodeoing, there's no way a guy can't be successful. And so I think there's a lot to what rodeo can teach you, even after rodeo. But you better love it, because there ain't no one else going to be pestering you to get out of bed. And, you ain't no boss. You're your own boss.
There is no other business like it that I know. But the pressure that you have to deal with, in rodeo, that alone, not just pressure competing, but the pressure to win, the pressure to financial, the draw and the all-night drives and all of the stuff, and just navigating the logistics, and honestly, just trying to work within the PRCA system. Just that in itself is just, it's very difficult.
Yes.
You learn a lot of life skills rodeo.
You do. You really do. You really do. Yeah. Well, Ken, I appreciate your time. I think any parent and any young kid is going to get so much out of this, and I admire you as a person, as a father, and as a friend, and I thank you for coming on, and can't wait to watch Paden rope at the NFR this year, and I can't wait to see where Wyatt goes next year.
Yeah, and Jackie too.
Yeah.
See him too. But no, I appreciate you, and I'm proud for you too with all that's going on in your life, with the clinics and the work that you're putting in, with your teaching and all of the elements that you're bringing forward to help people learn and looking outside the box and bringing in new technology and so forth to help. It's pretty cool. So
I appreciate
that. In addition to being a real estate tycoon and our leader in American Hero Celebration. So yeah. I appreciate what you do.
Yeah, we got a good event coming up here pretty quick. It's going to be pretty fun.
It's going to be great.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.